Yo, what is going on, guys, and welcome to a new video on my channel.
Mick Schumacher.
Today, you might guess it, yeah, we are driving a realistic cars around the Repo Ring in Austria, and we're doing a last to first 100% race, sprint race, and the full 100%. So we're doing a total of, I believe it would be 95 laps. And skipping, of course, quali. This is the setup that we are going to use. It's a time trial world record setup, so you might try it if you want to. Actually felt pretty decent. And yeah, we are underway with Mick Schumacher, and you can see the quali. I was already interested in these conditions because it was kind of wet, but still fast enough to go on softs. So there was a mixed condition, and somewhere on inter, somewhere on softs. We were, of course, last, doesn't matter. So yeah, and the sprint race, I wasn't really decisive yet. I wanted to start on the softs, but then I decided to go for the medium, and I think the medium was also the right choice in the end. Maybe we could have gone for the softs, but the sprint race was quite decent. We were already checking for the weather. Because the weather in this whole race weekend was quite messy. At the end of the formation lap, of course, getting our tires up to temperature and still making sure we get that purple grid slot. There we go. Also positioning our car a bit towards the middle so we can just straight line it if we see a gap is forming. And it's lights out and away we go right now. We got a pretty decent start, squeezing our way through exactly how we wanted to. Also, making sure we are getting past a couple of cars. We actually went from P20 to P15 in the first turn, from the start finish line to the exit of the first turn. And now, of course, also taking another good opportunity for a lot of overtaking into turn 3 of this track. And we make our way past a couple of cars, aside from Lando Norris and Valtteri Bottas. Also, if you, sorry again for the German in the background, it's just I recorded that on my stream. That's the reason, literally that's the reason. And I figured a way out, so next time you will just see myself talking. Same in my Team episodes from episode 5 onwards. That I'm, like you will see I'm speaking, but I'm not speaking. I just I have not saved that file on my recording then. But anyways, I was pretty furious here because Tsunoda took us out. But the way he took us out, like first of all here, like he just touches our rear, makes us getting loose, and then here he turns literally into us. But the contact was super odd. And I asked the chat what we should do. Like, look at this, how we lose, from what kind of contact we are losing the car. That was the weirdest contact I've ever seen on this game. Really strange, but the chat decided we should go for flashback, and we got a track limit, which in the end, and another one because of that. And these 2 track limits we didn't count, so I got actually 2 warnings, and I just double checked. You won't see that because my face cam, but yeah, I have 2 warnings, and so we decided in case I get 2 warnings in total, this is fine. A third warning would mean a penalty, but so I could flashback twice if there would be a track limit, just to make it a bit easier, because it's a long race. And yeah, just to make sure this is not gonna affect us at all. Which would be unfair, because the stewards in real life wouldn't give me a penalty for that, right? I didn't gain time, I just left enough space for Yuki to not crash into us. As we make our way into P9 with a big send on Pierre Gasly. But so progress is being made. It's lap 2 of 24. We actually, I think we can call this pretty successful so far in a realistic cars. As you can see at the beginning of the video, like the cars are definitely realistic, and I'm trying to make a switchback on Russell and Ocon, which doesn't work exactly how I'm planning to, because Russell has a bit better drive out of this corner, but we have the Ferrari like engine, and we send it, squeeze him a bit, and he's going for a send on Ocon. Poor Ocon is actually missing out by that, so we get past Ocon, Russell also, because of us sending him into Ocon. But we still make progress, and in the next lap we are already thinking about when to make our move. And right here Russell defended the inside, which looked a bit odd, and we make our way past. Easy peasy, even though he's fighting back at us. But we hold the inside for now. And we keep the racing line, so we stay ahead. P7 in lap 8 in the sprint. But from now on, it's gonna get hard to make any progress. Lap 12, It's still 6 seconds to Alonso. We are making slow progress, but you can see there's a yellow flag, and I was praying for a safety car. And actually, the safety car gods, they've heard us. Look at it, Carlos Sainz DNF'd, and I actually made a mistake because I got so excited. Locked up in 4th gear. Carlos Sainz here on the right, I think somewhere, or slowing down. It's actually Sainz, like I predicted it. It was exactly the same spot as well. Alex Albon is also out of the race in, I think, 2 more turns. And there it is, safety car, you can hear. I am really thrilled by this decision from the stewards, because that means we are up into P6 now. And we have 10 laps to go to maybe potentially gain even more positions. We are already in the points. We get a great restart, but then again, it wasn't yellow. It wasn't green yet, so we had to lift off just to make sure we don't get an illegal overtake. We get a great run past Alonso out of turn 1 using the slipstream. He's still fast on the straights. The AI is ridiculously fast on the straights, and this is kind of move done. Top 5 already for Mick from last. In 15 laps, I think this is a pretty good race so far for us. We are just making sure Alonso is not diving down the inside or anywhere else, so we can focus on staying close with Leclerc. And I'm actually struggling a bit with that, staying close with him. So I have to use my ERS. They are all, of course, full battery now, much quicker cars. It's gonna be more of a hustle than it was before to make any progress. But Leclerc had a bad exit here. We use our ERS. And on the next lap, we actually pass him because he had some issues. I think that's why he went slower. So we had to get past, otherwise we would lose the ERS and DRS, and we struggle even more to keep it up. You can see we are so low on ERS, and now DRS is enabled, which was a blessing, because that meant we could maybe catch up. But these cars are so fast. I was actually struggling, and we dropped out of the DRS in lap 17. I tried everything to get it back, but it was just not possible. We had no battery. Braking late, making sure we do everything as well as we could. And at the moment, we actually are within the 1 second window, but we are just dropping out again, because Paris, of course, has the DRS, or at least more power. And I was praying, because we could see Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen fighting. Maybe that would help us. And it did in some way, because we're closing in a bit. But now, actually, that meant Paris had more slipstream and more ERS and DRS available, technically. So, yeah, kind of didn't work out. But we made in lap 18 the jump into the DRS zone. We went back at them. And that helped us a lot, because, of course, Alonso still a lot of pressure from behind with no ERS left. In case we make a mistake, it's game over. Yeah, but this definitely helped us a lot. And we are checking the weather again in case there's some rain coming. But for the rest of the race, it was just 5 laps to go. There was no rain. Just a little spoiler. And actually, we managed to stay within the DRS range. And we could see also ahead Verstappen and Hamilton fighting. I was hoping they would make mistakes, so we might slip past or benefit from it and secure a cheeky little podium in the sprint. And for now, like you could see, Paris again pulling like crazy. It wasn't easy for us to stay close with them. But in lap 23, so 2 laps to go, we knew if we don't make a move now, it will be difficult. Paris gets a bit loose on the exit here. So we see we could maybe benefit from that. They are still fast on the straight, and we don't have any battery. So we gotta hope or send it. And we opt for the first one, and actually the hope got hurt. Paris misses the braking, locks up, and we get past. I was actually a bit annoyed by that, because that meant we didn't have DRS. On the next straight, or on the next lap, we would have such a difficult task to fend off a Red Bull in realistic with basically no ERS and no DRS. And this is actually what's gonna happen now. You can see we didn't make it into the DRS range from Verstappen, and we even got loose on the exit, so things got worse and worse. We had 0% battery here, and Paris is trying it. We get the DRS, we squeeze him a bit off, and that's move done for us. We have the DRS, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, last 2 P3, of course with a safety car, but there's also no pit stop, so no strategy game or nothing. I was happy with that. As Mick Schumacher, we were driver of the day of the sprint. We secured points already in the sprint, and that was a great result. I was really really happy, and with that it also meant we could fight for the big points in the 100% race, potentially fighting off Verstappen, Hamilton, if we make our way past them at the beginning and put on a defensive masterclass. And we realized, it said on the beginning in the forecast it should actually rain, but then it was dry. That confused me a lot, and we checked the radar screen, the weather screen. You can see it will rain at the end of the race. And well, Jeff is telling us a different story. If we ask him here, he told us it will rain within 15 minutes. So the mediums would have probably been the better choice, but we committed then to the hards instead. Because it's just what we picked, and in the end, unlucky. I thought about restarting first, but then decided we would stick with that. And we got a good position again, got the tires up to temperature. Now we're just waiting for lights out for the official 100% race. 71 laps as Mick Schumacher in the realistic cars. And the grid is forming up. The green flag is being waved on the right, and we see the first lights pop up in front of us. 5 lights, and it's go, go, go. And we actually got a brilliant start on Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and we are moving past both of them around the outside into turn 1. We are taking the lead of the Austrian GP and actually driving off. I couldn't believe it. This was such a great feeling, because now we had a chance. We had a chance to actually fight for the win on pace, because of course our car is slower, our driving will be slower, and I underestimate how heavy the car will be. We underfueled massively, and that actually caused me some trouble during the first time, because I realized we're not recovering any fuel. We were on -1 lap of fuel. I was already checking the weather, because of course we have to make sure we are timing this perfectly. Otherwise there's no chance that we are gonna outpace them. And if the strategies if the strategies are actually like happening, we would not be able to overcut or undercut them, just because our car doesn't have the pace. So we need to make sure, in case the rain hits, it needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be spot on, no imperfections, just straight on German efficiency. And we got purple, of course, in the first lap. End of lap 2, we're still purple because we are pushing. I was trying to, and we actually managed it. Look at this, just before the DRS line, I was pushing with my ERS to get Lewis out of the DRS range, to make our life a bit easier at the beginning, the first few laps. Leclerc is actually on the softs and makes his way past Verstappen and Alonso. So Verstappen had a pretty rough start, and we make our way past turn 3 of lap 3 with a 1.3 second gap to Lewis Hamilton. No DRS for him for now, but I realized quickly this is not something that we can keep up. Our battery will be drained, he's gonna catch up, and we won't be able to defend. This race is just gonna be a nightmare then. So I stopped using most of my ERS, tried to maintain. We still got a purple lap, of course, in this one. And in lap 6, Lewis was already right on our toes. So from this lap onward, it was just managing. And we could see the clouds are getting a bit more darker. Like the sky is just slowly closing off. And Lewis, like, I tried to not fight him too much, but I don't know what he did there. He literally fought us so hard. I didn't understand it. With that, Max Verstappen was right in the DRS range again when he got past Leclerc and Alonso. And we make sure we trick Lewis Hamilton into a clean and lovely switchback. In lap 8, Lewis is also trying it on the inside here. And in this corner, I realized they usually do mistakes here. Like, not every single lap, but sometimes they try to go around the outside. They're typically around the outside. Look, there was also a mistake. I don't know why. Sometimes when they get closer in the corner, because they can carry a bit more speed than a normal player, they get a bit too excited. And out of nowhere, it's GG's. Yeah, but so we are in lap 9 of lap 71. We're still in the lead, so 10 laps already survived as P1. Well, we got overtaken, of course, from Hamilton once. And you can see our fuel struggles. But also that I started lifting coasting, you can hear that into the corners. Like every single corner, I'm just lifting a lot. Just to make sure we recover fuel. And it actually worked out. I don't know if you can hear it maybe into the next turn. And I'm checking for the weather. It's getting more and more closer to the actual rain kicking in.
fuck, man?
And we had a little moment here with Verstappen before, so that hurt me a lot. And again, we are lifting coasting. But we still had to push a bit more, because Verstappen was right behind us. It's not easy. And the rain is kicking in, you could see the first drops, and now it's raining more and more. And I was actually not expecting, on this lap already, like the track looks completely bone dry. And it was just a few spots of rain. But I think already now, yeah, Jeff is telling us to go on inters. And I was surprised by that. I thought it was too early. But then again, I looked at the delta, and I saw the track is getting wetter, so we made the decision to go into the pits on this lap, and it was the right call because everyone pitted. And we were, of course, at the end of the pit lane, so we would not get held by anybody. Whereas I think Verstappen might get held from Lewis or the opposite, potentially. Let's see how our pit stop goes. So we get an optimal pit stop and a pit stop of 2.5 seconds, and DRS is disabled right at this moment, so perfection. We timed it to perfection, and it was unbelievable how quickly this track got wet. I didn't expect that. Really interesting. But from here onwards, we were struggling a tiny bit. At the beginning of the wet stint or the inter stint, we couldn't pull away, and they were actually closing in big time. You can already see it right now. They are pushing like hell. And I didn't understand it, but over time I figured it out more, and actually the grip of the inters felt really good, really good. Lap 16, the first safety car kicked in. I'm saying first because you have to wait for it, and I thought, okay. Technically our fuel, we saved up 0.5 laps of fuel, or 0.7 laps of fuel with the fuel saving technique with lift and coasting. And in the end I actually had trouble with getting rid of fuel because I had too much. So it was the whole race just trying to balance my fuel. At lap 20 the safety car was over. I think we were already nearly positive on fuel, or we were already positive on fuel again. Just waiting with when we are going full throttle. Got a decent restart, and on the restarts, that's the thing. We had great pace. We had a really great pace compared to the AI. When it got a bit more wet, and actually the rain picked up more and more. That was the thing. So it turned into kind of a heavy wet situation over time. And you could see, I think the AI was struggling whilst we were actually maintaining a good gap. They were, of course, still faster. They had better cars. But we drove pretty well. Verstappen also making our life a bit easier by fighting Hamilton. Checking the weather report. So still same situation as before. And Verstappen got close to us, but the next safety car kicked in. I was surprised, like there was no DNF or anything. I think just somebody spun, and maybe because of the weather they thought it would be great to deploy a safety car just to make sure nobody gets hurt. I don't know. But there was another safety car, which of course every single safety car period made the race technically shorter for us. If there would be a gap it would be frustrating, but this was alright. This was good for us, because every single lap that we don't have to defend Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton with a Haas was a win for us. Less laps to try and stay in the lead. And so we got an even better getaway, I think. Yeah, than before compared to Hamilton. It was already 7 tenths by the end of the straight, or nearly a second. Yeah, nearly 9 tenths. That was incredible. And now in turn 1 we were usually pretty strong. Got a great run. And good traction. Spamming the ERS to make sure we build up that gap again. Over time they're catching, but as long as we can build a gap in these conditions, it's like we have to take every single opportunity that there is just to make sure that we stay on top of them. And we have a 1.1 second gap. Whilst we are being told it's wet condition time, and I opted to stay out, and that could have lost us the race, because Verstappen is pitting and Hamilton is pitting at the same moment, and usually the AI doesn't really mess it up. Like, at least they go in where it's actually time for that. And we were checking our lap times. I was trying to stay out as long as I could, because I knew that the inters on this game as well, like in real life, they are better than you think they are. Like, they are pretty good still in dry conditions, and they are pretty good still in wet conditions. It's not like they're completely gonna drop every single second of pace. And we were just trying to maintain and check how the situation is looking like. there any report? No. Okay. But you can see the lap times, they are dropping a bit, like by 2/10 this time. That could also be driving. So it's getting definitely a bit wetter and wetter and wetter. And I could also feel it was understeering. Everybody changed to the wets. The thing is, if it would get a bit more dry, we would definitely benefit by it. Just because of a couple of tenths of pace difference, that doesn't mean anything. And actually, we were extending the gap to Verstappen after a while. And that was the interesting bit. So it was right on the crossover. It was probably a tiny bit better to go on the wets if you got them up to temperature. But just that getting it up to temperature, keeping it in the right working window, was not worth it to sacrifice 20 seconds of a pit stop.
Wir bleiben draußen.
So we just heard that it's actually getting dry again, and so we made everything. This was probably the best move we could have done. This was perfect for us. We took a risk, we took a gamble, and it paid off. But actually, it wasn't really a gamble because we knew we could hold it. But then again, there was a safety car, and this kind of ruined everything for us again. Even though we had another pit stop, and I messed up. I needed to slow down enough, otherwise I would have gotten a penalty. I got one, so chat made me realize. I was like, why did I get a penalty for just crossing the white line? And they were like, oh no, yeah. Bottas actually got disqualified. And at the end of the lap, we still had a big enough gap that I decided, okay, you know what? It's gonna get drier. Everybody's probably changing at some stage to the inters. We are getting our fresh inters now. So we will have a decent restart. And you will also see we will struggle to get our inters in the right working window at the beginning of the restart, just because it's still heavy wet. It is heavy wet, it's gonna get drier, and everybody will have to pit as well again. There is not gonna be any gap now. It's gonna be down to 0 again, unfortunately. And we get out ahead of Lewis Hamilton. I don't know why I went so slow on the start-finish straight there. And the whole field, look at the minimap, they are all spread up. I didn't understand it. We just barely had our tires up to temp. And we were trying again to extend our gap, because now probably Lewis is in the correct conditions, but it got more and more dry over time. And already at this stage, I believe the inters got a bit faster again. So just after the restart, it actually happened that the inters got better and they picked up the grip again. So we were actually doing everything right. The chat and I, we were spot on with our decision making. And yeah, I cannot say that this was probably one of the most fun races I've had in a while. And we did like 95 laps in total. That was crazy. Yeah, of Austria in a Haas and a realistic Haas. And you can see we're extending the gap, checking the weather again. So yeah, inters are definitely the fastest tire. It's like the heavy rain definitely stopped. You can see it. And we have a 4.4 second gap to Hamilton. It's getting bigger and bigger. And Lewis realizes he has to pit. His tires are not gonna make this with a transition. Alonso the same thing. And now we have our pit stop, our free pit stop back. That's why I pitted, because we made a little gamble with that to stay on the inters, but at the same time, we just made sure we get another extra pit stop. And that's exactly what happened. So in the end, if it gets actually dry, we can probably go for softs. And you can see that the track is pretty dry now. And there was no info from Jeff yet. Like, the rain stopped. From Mark, our engineer, he didn't say anything. I was checking the tire temps, because usually they would overheat quickly, like getting up to 90 if it's getting really dry. But apparently there was enough, and I was thinking, okay, we are getting more and more grip, and it's actually getting drier and drier. So on the next lap, look at this. Still no information, no strategy change from our engineer, and we extended the gap to Hamilton even more. I think Hamilton also had a bit of damage. Verstappen DNF'd earlier, I think. And now DRS enabled, even though Jeff didn't say anything. And the track still looked pretty wet. But so I took this into our hands and decided we are gonna go for softs. I believe also the softs could have made it in the sprint to the end. So we are taking the softs and seeing where this is gonna go. We have another pit stop anyways. And with this, we will get the tires up to temperature way quicker than with any other compound in the wets or in the damp conditions, let's say. And we can go for fastest lap. I think most people are gonna pit anyways this lap. Maybe this is the wrong decision. But it could also work out. And in the end, we don't have anything to lose because we are so far ahead of everyone. We have a free stop. Even if this is wrong, we might be able to fend them off. Now, look at the pit lane exit with those cold tires. And you can still see it's damp out there. It is. I was so careful. So careful. I just didn't want to mess it up. But the good thing is Lewis was pitting already. Some cars were staying out. I was just trying to get in as quickly as possible some temperature because it took like forever. It literally felt like it took forever. And the gap to Lewis was 25 seconds. And we got a penalty. And this one actually, we could not flash back here anymore because it was not a sprint, right? With the 2 warnings. So if there would be a safety car, this actually made me really scared for the last few laps. If there would be a safety car, it would be game over. We would not even be on the podium. And there was a yellow flag and I was already like, oh my god, are you kidding me? And it's just Albon sitting there on the right, like, for no reason. And he continued afterwards. I think we go for the fast lap here potentially. No, but we had a big moment. A really big moment. This could have been it. The reason was because I was pushing for fastest lap. And the tires were too hot. Then Kevin let us by, but in a really weird spot, and I didn't understand why. Why not on the straight? And in lap 67, we had such a big gap, a 28-second gap. I wanted to pit again, go for fastest lap, steal it from Charles. At least try. I mean, what do we have to lose? And potentially there's no safety car anymore, hopefully. Maybe a virtual one. A virtual one wouldn't hurt us, but a proper safety car would be really bad. So the pit stop here. Our pit crew doing an amazing job with 2.5 second pit stops kind of all around every single time. And now it's gonna be much easier to get them up to temperature. We're exiting the pits and the gap to Lewis is gonna be, I don't know, where is it saying it? At what point do we see it? It's gonna shrink and I think we still have roughly 10 seconds. It's a big gap. It's a big gap, so if we would pit again, we would probably be 10 seconds behind him, roughly. This is not even that bad. But yeah, everything nailed. We are in P1, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc. We had, I think, a 4-stopper or 5-stopper. Yeah, we pitted first for the Inters, then Inters again, then soft stop. No, it's a 4-stopper, okay. We're just trying to get our ERS up to maximum, the first fastest lap. A 6.4, now we are gonna go on board for lap 70 of 71, 11.4 second gap. We get the DRS. Oh no, we don't get the DRS, but we get the slipstream from Nicolas Latifi. We are taking every single bit that we can take from that to improve our lap time. Heavy braking down to 3rd gear, then short shift into 4 for better traction. And spam the ERS if you want to go for the fastest lap. Not too much because you have to still manage it over a full lap. Braking right at the shadow. 4th gear, 5th gear for the exit. Open up the steering wheel nice and smoothly. Then position your car on the right curb. 6th gear, 5th gear, up into 6th for a bit more traction. Use all the road on the exit and turn in 5th gear, 6th gear. Use the track again, but don't get an off track. It's really easy to do so. And we are spamming our ERS once more. It's a 13-second gap to Lewis Hamilton, so 1.5 seconds quicker so far this lap. And we're checking the tire temps just to not spin again. And this is a 105.481 when we go into the final lap of the race as Mick Schumacher in a realistic cars. And there we go, guys. We actually managed to do it. First try. This was quite remarkable. Like, the chat really enjoyed it. It was super fun. I enjoyed it as well.
GG's.
And yeah, well, GG's overall. It's a 3rd place in the sprint. It's a first race. It's a 1st place in the normal race. And we are not driver of the day. It's of course Lance Stroll, not Mick Schumacher in a realistic cars. No. But that's fine, you know. We can deal with that, I guess. But you can see the team is celebrating. Mick in P1, P2 Lewis Hamilton, P3 Charles Leclerc. And I guess it was a good sign for Mick to come because he scored P6 in the actual race in Spielberg. So yeah, maybe we have to do this every single week with him so he keeps scoring points. But no, fantastic job from Mick in Spielberg. And there he is, P1 on the podium. Quite something for the Germans out there. Und auch an alle Deutschen. Ihr könnt auch gerne beim deutschen YouTube-Kanal vorbeischauen. Das mit deutschen Commentary.
Also 110% KI, 100% Rennen.
There he is, Mr.
Fastest
Mick.
Lap, erster Platz und dritter im Sprint.
But yeah,
von last to first.
What do you guys think? Did you enjoy this video?
Alle,
I hope you did, because I did. It was a great challenge. I really enjoyed it, and I think we can maybe do this for every single race, 100% race, upload it to YouTube, a challenge as a driver. Doesn't need to be the fastest all the time. Yeah, but we scored the maximum points as Mick Schumacher. Well, not maximum points, but we got fast lap race, maximum points in the race, and 6 points in the sprint. So we scored the most points in the whole thing. And there's the whole race. Look at this, 71 laps. We didn't have the sprint, of course. Noted down there. And some people were on a, I think, 6-stop strategy or something like that. Totally crazy, mind blowing. This race was crazy. Was super fun. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe, hit the bell, show some support, doesn't hurt at all, and I really appreciate it, helps out the channel. And I will see you in the next video, guys. Also a little replay of the start. Take care, you're Marcel, and I wish you a great start into the new week. See you in the next video. Peace.
Die armen Nachbarn.